These women knew what they were signing up for. They knew the modeling industry was hard, and they chose to sign up and go through it anyway.
Welcome to Auntie's Court. Court is now in session.
Auntie's Court is now in session. Here's where we take viral moments and put them under review. We're not lawyers. Ain't none of us on this panel lawyers. We're just giving you some perspective, baby. So the aunties.
What we doing?
Aunties are presiding in the matter of fame versus responsibility. The People versus America's Next Top Model, featuring Tyra Banks, Nigel Barker, Miss J. Alexander, J. Manuel, Janice Dickerson, UPN production executives, Ken Mock, and Dawn Stiffen. Anyway, those two UPN executives, all right? For 15 years, young women walked into a house chasing a dream. Very few left with some success. Did this show create opportunity, or did it manufacture humiliation for ratings? Netflix reality check revisits America's Next Top Model, the entire 15-year run from 2003 to 2018. They dig into what a lot of people now see as something very toxic, something exploitive as a reality show. And it's not just surfacing like nostalgia. Like, people are having some strong reactions to this. Weigh in on these charges. The first charge is going to be the emotional manipulation for entertainment. Like, where do you draw the line between dramatic TV and actual harm? The second one is going to be humiliation disguised as tough love. The third one is going to be exploitation under the banner of opportunity. Yep. The fourth one is going to be failure of leadership and accountability. And then there's a fifth charge here. Do the contestants bear any responsibility?
So what is this case really about? This is not a legal case because we're not lawyers. Did America's Next Top Model empower young women, or did it use vulnerability as entertainment? This show created high-stress environments intentionally. It had sleep deprivation, isolation from family, confrontational panels, emotional breakdowns were filmed instead of protected, crime became airtime, distress became storylines. Let's talk about the Shandy incident specifically. Her emotional collapse became the show's most replayed scenes. This was revisited on the Tyra Banks talk show. Let's talk about the Tiffany confrontation. This was not private coaching. This was public shaming. Emotional vulnerability used for dramatic moment. Let's not forget about the model who expressed discomfort from the male model who inappropriately made advances at her. She was evaluated on how well she tolerated versus how she felt unsafe in the environment. The show acknowledged her discomfort on camera, mind you, but still treated it as a performance critique rather than a safety issue. Tyra's role. She was the host. She was executive producer. She was the mentor. She was the industry gatekeeper. We got to remember, Tyra came from an industry where she also faced some of these things. For her to say that she was creating an environment of safety and giving exposure, of which she did, she still caused harm to these individuals. Contestants signed contracts, but did they understand long-term consequences?
Reality is the show didn't create the fashion industry. It just exposed what some people might have believed that it was. This show exposed the harsh reality of it, but it also gave opportunities to individuals like us and to other ethnicities that wouldn't have had that opportunity had they had not gone through the show. These women knew what they were signing up for. They knew the modeling industry was hard, and they chose to sign up and go through it anyway. Now, they might have not known how hard it was going to be, but they should have had some idea of the harsh realities that they were going to face and go through. Just looking at Tyra Banks as she was coming up the ranks, there were stories out there about what she went through at each of her modeling gigs that she had. But at the end of the day, she was giving them harsh realities of what these women were going to go through. And at the end of it all, they got exposure. Many of those contestants that were on the show, they did go off to become high-profile models. And some of them even thanked the show for giving them that opportunity and preparing them for what was to come.
Yes, she exposed the harsh reality, but having come from that type of environment and claiming to not make it hard for them or go through the same things that she's been through, she did not do that. She did not protect these women.
She was supposed to give them that harsh reality. She's giving them the opportunity to come on the show and train them and prepare them. But she also had to give them some of the tough love that she received so they can develop tough skin as well.
Okay, tough love is not humiliation. So let's be clear.
Okay.
So yes, she did have to show them, tell them, or help them understand things are not going to be easy out there, but that does not equal humiliation. If you are claiming or want to protect these women from going through the very same things that you went through, you don't do that. You don't repeat those things. You change those things. So there was other people before Tyra who did this. They didn't do it this way.
I think there's a couple of things that we need to be mindful of. There's a reality that there was trauma turned into like episode cliffhangers. You know, anytime you have a situation where, granted, this was something new, Tyra brought to the forefront. It was very innovative, but at the same time, there were limited boundaries. And I think everybody on the set was probably learning at the same time, because they're taking reality to this whole essence of reality TV to a new level. Trying to compete with, what is it, the fucking show that they was eating roaches and shit. Joe Rogan was.
I know what she's talking about.
The show they was eating. So it was like around that time, it was like extreme.
Oh, Fear Factor.
Yes, there you go.
Right. So they were trying to compete with that. First, it was a situation of, ooh, we got picked up. Mm-hmm. What can we do to stay here? That was one issue. And then once they got the notoriety and everybody was like, oh, wow, this is something different. We like it. Now it became, oh, we're competing with these other shows. So what can we do that's just like outlandish? Like anytime you're going to do blackface, like, come on now. I think there was certain stunts and things that they did that was just unethical. When we talk about the situation with Shandy, they could have protected her. They didn't. They chose to actually film it. And then even the contestant that won was promised all these things. They put her up in an apartment with other models, and she basically was going to these agencies, the one that they signed her up for, but they didn't give her no work. And Tyra even admitted, I could have helped you and I did nothing. Exactly. So there's got to be some sort of accountability there. Now, on the flip side, yes, she put diverse women on mainstream television. You have models that were under 5'7", Eva Pickford, now Eva Marcel. So there are people that probably wouldn't have gotten an opportunity that she did expose. The plus size models, Winnie Harlow, she came from America's Next. I had no clue because I wasn't even watching at that.
One of the transgender. But so I still beg the question. Even with the ones who became successful, the Eva, the Yayas, the Takara, the Winnie Harlow, it does not negate the harm that was done, because they too experience some harmful events. It's just not being talked about in this specific documentary.
No doubt. No, and I'm not debating that. I guess it begs the question, at what point should personal agency matter? Because I hear you when you say, Joe, that they knew what they signed up for. But, you know, can a 19-year-old truly understand what national humiliation feels like until it happens?
Someone who's never left their state forever before.
Not going to get it. In reality,
I can understand that happening in the beginning, like the first couple of cycles. But at this point, stuff was coming out during those shows. So women that signed up for it after, let's say, cycle 3, cycle 4, they had to have some type of idea what they were going to go through on this show. And they still chose to sign up.
So now we're at the point where, Aaron, what are our true feelings about this? You know, we played the prosecution defense, but what's our true feelings?
I wasn't happy about some of the things that were happening during the show. But it did give them exposure. It gave them opportunities that they probably would have never had they had not gone through it. Because now they're naming faces out there. They showed that they can go through stuff, and it gave them the opportunity with other agencies to at least try to get some type of work. And some of them did get and became successful. But there were some events during the documentary that I did not like. But at the same time, like the one where they filmed her having sex. The production should have stopped filming before she got out of hand with the drinking. She knew that they were filming. They all
know that they're filming. They're on a show.
Yeah, they all knew. So
but production has a responsibility.
America's Next Top Model.
They did not have to air it. Even if they did.
That's what I'm saying. They didn't have to. At the same time,
let's not talk over each other. Yeah.
I'm just saying that even though that it was their responsibility to stop filming, at the same time, she has to take accountability for the fact she knew that they were filming. She should have been mindful of her surroundings and knowing what was going on. She let the situation get out of hand by getting drunk. She should have known better.
So let me ask
She wasn't that young that she didn't know what was happening.
So let me ask you a question before I talk about how I feel about it. If that was your daughter, would you still feel the same way? Would you still say the same exact thing you're saying about Shandy right now?
I would have been angry with yes, I would have been angry with her, but I also would have been angry with America's Next Top Model. I'm on the fence here. My daughter should have known better, and during the time that she would have been going through this, I would have been at least there guiding her through
Okay.
and telling her to make sure that she's paying attention and mindful of her surroundings. Don't
So
put yourself in situations.
I got to pause for 1 second because there's an element of this that perhaps you were unaware of.
Okay.
And I recently learned. So two things. There's gonna be another show that's gonna come out March 11th,
Yes.
and it's gonna be run by E, where they're just showing contestants. That's number one. But
Okay.
within that, there was a woman on TikTok that was a former contestant that said, when you sign up for the show,
Mm-hmm.
they took your wallet, they took
Mhm.
your money, they took your ID, you
Mhm.
and your phones. You were
Mhm.
not able, for the length of the time that you were on the show, you could not communicate to anyone.
You were
In
isolated.
people that were removed from the show, like you were not in the running anymore, so you had to leave. We were thought as the audience they left. No, they put them in a hotel, and they
Room, which they
the
mentioned.
length of the
Yeah.
time they had to stay there, still in isolation, not able to talk to anybody. So you saying I would have guided my daughter along the way, there was no opportunity to do that. She couldn't call you. In fact, in the contract, there was something that was said that if you violated this, they can sue you. I'm not sure about all the semantics of the contract, but I was led to believe you could get sued. So you had to be in isolation in this hotel, held up. They only gave them a stipend for a certain amount of money that they were then supposed to be able to use for food and blase. My point
Right.
being is you would not have had any interaction with your daughter. And so if they were taping for 8 weeks, 6 weeks, 12, I don't know the length of time, she ain't calling you and you ain't calling them. The only reason why Shandy was allowed to call her boyfriend, probably because it added to the whole drama.
It
You see what I'm
did.
saying?
Because they
Right?
aired that too. It's like
Because
They aired all of that. Yeah.
they put this
Exactly.
girl on Front Street. Like, really.
So I just want to go back to that, to your question, because I don't want this to be like a victim shaming thing. And
No.
part of your response was a little bit of victim shaming and saying that in saying that there needs to be some accountability on her end, understanding that there's a lot of assumptions that look how, I mean, the way we raise, the
Which
way
I said we don't know. Yes.
hold on, the way we raise and whatever, maybe we wouldn't put ourselves in those situations, but there are plenty of women that find themselves in situations where they drank a little too much. They had no idea of what their cutoff switch would be. And then they find themselves in situations with a man and things happen that they probably didn't want to happen.
To that point, we've all probably been in a situation where we drank more than we probably should have, but we were with people that we could trust, right? Anybody can drink more than what they probably anticipated drinking in that day. But the difference is of you have your support system versus these are all strangers. I don't care if they on the show together. These are strangers to this girl.
They had a responsibility to protect
the show
her,
had a
failed at that.
responsibility.
And furthermore, I kind of feel like Tyra, even in this documentary, look, she's one of the faces of America's Next Top Model. We're not going to exclude Miss J. Alexander. We're not going to exclude Jay Manuel and Nigel Barker because I think there's accountability on all ends.
Janice Dickinson, she took things too far at times, and somebody should have stopped her.
For sure.
You know, they all took things too far sometimes, and people have human responsibility, especially in this type of environment where everybody is on this show together, to hold your partners accountable for their behavior. They all should have been saying something to Tyra. Tyra's is too far. Supreme Models. There's another documentary about models. So if you get a chance to check it out,
what is it on? Netflix?
Netflix.
Okay.
It's called Supreme Models. You will see in this show, there are far more models that are out there of color that did not go on the Tyra Banks show. They work with these individuals in this documentary. So Tyra is not the first one to do this. She just probably did this more publicly, in my opinion, than some others. The accountability issue for me is Tyra is not taking any accountability. The smugness of her posture in that documentary, and then to have the audacity to try to promote another season. Was this just to promote a new season? When celebrities are out there and they're on trial for whatever, they don't act alone. She didn't act alone. At the end of the day, she was the face, she was the producer. All they see is her. And even the Jays and them, while we hold them accountable, she was their boss, right? So you're going to do what your boss say for the most part. if you're not willing to challenge them. Not all people are willing to challenge their bosses or their leadership. Everybody's guilty. And Tyra is Tyra as the face of it. She is the guiltiest of them all.
Your thoughts, Joe?
Everybody is guilty.
Wait. I'm sorry. Clarify. Everybody, because I named a whole bunch of people. You're saying not the contestants. Everybody from the Tyra, Miss J, Ken, Mark, all Jay, Emmanuel, Nigel, except for the contestant. I just want to be clear. Who's guilty?
The show, the production, and all the people that are associated with the show, not the contestants. The contestants are not guilty.
Okay.
I'm saying that everyone, including contestants, are guilty. Everyone has to take accountability of what was happening. As I said, after the first 3 seasons, the stigma of what that show represents was already out there. So now people or contestants signing up going forward had an idea of what they were going to go through on this show. They may not have gone through the same exact steps as the first 3 cycles, but they had to have known that things was going to happen. So in this point, you're taking it as a job. You're not supposed to lose control in front of coworkers.
Sorry, I have to ask another question. I'm sorry.
Okay.
So you said first 3 seasons, right? I think the season where the model was feeling uncomfortable with the male model happened seasons later. Do you think she's going to sign up to be assaulted or touched and filled up on it by a male model to be a model?
What I'm saying is she should have had some type of idea that she needs to be mindful of her behavior with her fellow co-workers or her fellow contestants.
I think you don't mix the person up. We're not talking about Shannon.
We're talking about the person that on that was caught on camera having sex.
No, we're not. We're not.
So which one are we talking
That's
about?
what I wanted to be, because we're not talking about.
So a couple of seasons later, there was a model. They were overseas. They was internationally recording. And there was a male model. He kept touching her inappropriately. She told the production that she was feeling uncomfortable, and they claimed that she didn't know how to handle these situations, and they criticized her versus protected her. These were seasons later. So you're saying the first 3 seasons.
That's just one. Okay, I never, in my defense, I never talked about that particular scene because
I did know in my argument, but I did in my argument.
I missed it, so I apologize for that. But that's just one instance that happened. But for the most part, the contestants that signed up after that 3rd, I'll give it the 4th season. It was already out there what the show was about, and that a lot of the stuff that they were doing may have been a little over the edge or over the top, but they were signing up for that. They still got on the show. They had to have an idea of what was happening or what was going to happen. So I'm just saying that it's not just the show. The contestants also need to take accountability that when they go on here, they have to treat it as a job. You just need to behave in a manner to keep yourself and not put yourself in situations that was going to get caught on camera.
I want to ask another element, even though I'm going to say this, and I'm not sure that it is 100% true.
Okay.
But I feel like, given some of the research that I have, it could have been true. There might have been an NDA, which means that anybody that was on the show previously couldn't really talk about their experiences of what happened.
But it aired.
Hold on.
Okay.
With that being said, even though it aired, we don't know about the situations of, now you got me shacked up in this hotel because I got kicked off and I can't talk to nobody, but you giving me $37 or whatever stipend a day that now I got to eat 3 meals, right? A lot of them people ain't gonna, forget about the stuff that was aired. I guess what I'm saying too, there could have been a lot of assumptions that someone's signing up that's 17, 18, 19 years old, and all of a sudden you're saying treat it as a job. But what if all these things, like, so now treat it as a job, I'm expected to walk in 10-inch heels, which who the hell can do? That's like stilts. And if you're not trained, you're gonna bust your ass. You can't leave because you get sued. So now what happens? I get what you're saying. There needs to be some personal agency, the contestants, but just like any job, the difference here is another job, you could say, man, fuck you, I'm out. Here, there was recourse. You can't just leave. So what is the person there supposed to do?
I'll let Joe answer because I have something to add to it. But go ahead, Joe, answer the question.
They may not have known those small little details. I'm talking about the overall experience. After the first few seasons, all of this was aired, but I have to assume that they saw the shows, dissected all of them, and knew what was what could potentially happen if they tried out for the show and got on.
I think you're making a lot of assumptions.
And I'm going to tell you, then I'm going by based off what I saw in the documentary and what we're talking about in the charges.
Okay.
Yes, I'm not saying that we know all the ins and outs of what took place and that they knew all of this. But for the most part, the experiences that they were going to go through, they had to have some type of idea.
So
That's my opinion.
I agree. We don't all know all the ins and out. The show's premise was to make you America's Next Top Model, regardless of what was aired and or taped, regardless of whether I watched an episode or not. Because that I may not have watched episodes before I signed up. Before that, this may have been the first time I even heard about this show, and all I seen was an opportunity for me to be a model. At the end of the day, what happened on that show does not excuse the humiliation, the mistreatment of these individuals. I don't care, and even to your point, Key, you can go to a regular job where you don't have no NDA, and you can say "F you, I'm out of here." You can still suffer some type of repercussion at the end of the day. You can be blackballed from this industry from your
That's
behavior.
correct.
So
Absolutely.
there are certain things, there are certain ramifications for how you respond to an employee for a job that you, like to your point, signed up for. But did you sign up to be mistreated? Did you sign up to be humiliated? I don't think so. If you think about it today, any job description that comes out, I don't care what the job is. You go apply for the job. You accept the job, you take the job. That shit changes. It's not exactly what was in that description, and you very well may be doing something different than what you signed up for. At the end of the day, they did not sign up to be humiliated. I don't care what they saw on previous shows. Nobody signs up for that. Nobody. The onus is on the production and the executive producers and the judges.
Tyra may have set out to try to do something that's a little bit of innovative. She might have set out to, she definitely pushed the network to include diversity and was met with, resistance and still prevailed. She was making some bank. Okay. Yeah. And I think like for so many others that start to have that money and come into fame like that, even though she had the fame, but this was bringing her to a new level. The money, the power, the fame, I think it got the best of her. And it skewed her. She started making bad decisions
at the end. Yeah.
And at the end of the day, it clouded her judgment. And I think that because of those poor decisions and her lack of accountability, even now, and the fact that you're trying to push a season 25, who wants to see that shit?
That's the biggest thing. It's the lack of accountability. She has not said sorry to not one of these individuals and played like she don't remember certain shit.
At the end, the last thing she said was, I'm happy that you called me out. And this it really upset me because I like Tyra. I remember growing up, looking at one of my older sister's magazines, seeing this Black woman. And as a teenager, I'm literally like 16 years old. She's 18 and I'm seeing this Black woman. Not that there were other Black models because I did see the Imans, but this was someone that was close in proximity to my age. Not that I wanted to be a model, but I love fashion. I was like, wow, the possibilities. This is beautiful. So I've always championed her efforts. And for her for me to see this now and see how she acting, it was like, I'm disappointed. And the thing is, this is another thing for those folks out there to be careful of who you put on a pedestal. Find inspiration in these celebrities, but you don't know them as human beings. You don't know them personally. So we have to be very careful who we put on a pedestal because she's showing her colors. The fact that she didn't go visit Miss J. Now, I don't know what happened between both of them, but this person had a stroke on their deathbed. The least you could have done is send something, a flower. No, she sent
and she made it seem like she didn't know about it.
Him saying, I'm going to come see you.
Text.
And he said, I love when he goes,
I love Miss J. I don't care.
He was like, them eyes, baby. So that the whole fact of that, there's always three sides to a story. But on this documentary, there was just a lack of accountability. Even though at the end she was like, you called me out and that's how I get better. But it's like, baby, you 52. How are you blinded?
And I hear the next one's not going to even be any better. So
how can we trust it?
So now that show came out 2003. So now if someone would have came up with this idea now, do you think the stuff that went on in this show during the time of high fashion, you think that show would have made it coming out like, let's say last year, or someone trying to bring up that idea now?
I think right now in taping and production, there's more security measures that protect the actor. All this stupid stuff that they were going
Took
through,
place,
the
yeah.
blackface, and that ain't happening now.
No.
Well, that toxic stuff is not going to happen now. The modeling industry is cutthroat. Back in the day, you go to these agencies, they'll tell you to your face, independent of race, ethnicity, you too fat.
Mhm.
Right in your face, you're fat. Lose 10 pounds. Woman that I had met when I was running,
Mhm.
she wanted to be an athletic model. To me, that bitch was bad, yo. Her body was banging, six-pack, black woman.
Mhm.
Okay. And she was a runner. And I remember doing a run with her in Central Park. And her and I got to talking.
Mhm.
And she even told me then, this was like 2016. And she was like, they pinched her on her side and said, yeah, you got to lose a couple of inches here and a couple of inches. Now, I didn't think she had much to lose. When I tell you her body, in my opinion, was slamming. They were like, nah, you gotta lose a little bit there. You can't be an athletic model. So it was ruthless. Okay. And some people can't take that. And to your point, Jay, which you had mentioned earlier, I don't care what nobody say, for black models versus a white model versus a Hispanic model, we got it bad. They didn't know what to do with us.
Mhm.
So they didn't know.
They couldn't manage our hair. They couldn't our
manage our hair.
makeup.
The makeup was
They had,
horrendous.
yeah. Models had to go to set with their own makeup, and you'll see it in that other documentary that I shared with you.
Similar to actors.
They had to do their own hair, like where the other ones, they were getting their hair done, they was getting their makeup, they was getting the full treatment, where we had to self-serve ourselves because they couldn't service us.
They didn't know how to do it. We even with this documentary, a lot of people say going on, yeah, but back in the day, that's what it was, and back in the day, this is what it. Yeah, but now we're aware. And a lot of those things ain't gonna fly.
Ain't gonna fly.
No one's
and it don't make it right. Just
it doesn't make it right.
It does not make it right. So people try to make that argument. I don't care. It wasn't right.
Curious to see what you guys think. Weigh in on the situation. Let us know. Are we batshit crazy? Are y'all picking up what we putting down? Until next time.